Hello, everybody. So today I was working on a project from my queue. A customer had ordered a custom pet portrait on a piece of wood. So I drew it out first. I always sketch it out first. And then because wood is so porous and absorbs everything, I did put a layer of a clear coat around the drawing. That way, if any paint was a little too watery, it wouldn't seep out into the edges of the wood. Later on in the video, I end up doing the rest of the outer part of the wood with the clear coat because it was driving me nuts the way it looked. But I always start out with my eyes, like at least the base coat of the eyes, just because once I start getting the fur in there, it always looks so creepy to me when I have hollow eyes. So when I first started the video, you saw the original photo I was working from. In that photo, the dog is laying down. So the back of the dog was like going up towards the left corner, which covered, like it would have been like the whole left side of the piece of wood would have been the body, and it looked very weird drawn out like that. So I made it look like the dog was just standing. And this is my palette of colors that I use. You'll see later on how messy I get when I paint. That's actually fairly neat. There's some brushes. That was me getting annoyed with the way the background looked without the rest of the clear coat. So I'm laying in my first layer. There's a lot of layers when it comes to my pet portrait work, and I use very tiny brushes for most of it. So this is all my very first layers of everything. If you hear any noises in the background while I'm talking and doing this voiceover, that would be my two dogs wrestling one another. There is some of the first layer. Now I'm going into the mouth with those bright pinks. I got some muted tones. Just ignore them. Pepper. That's Pepper. He's our old man. He wanted to get in on the action. He's more like the old get off my lawn guy in the movies, you know, the old crotchety. He's 13 and a half, so he's a little annoyed with the two young ones. Anyway, still laying in that very first layer and some details. And I'm taking pictures in between because I realize it's nice to see the progress as we go. And I like to look back. And I also like to send this to the customer so they can see the progress of my paintings. But see these brushes that I'm using? They are so tiny. They probably have about 10 hairs in them, 10 to 15 hairs. Some of my even smaller brushes, when I go down to do like the whiskers in the very end, they have even less. There's another up close. I noticed at one point the nose was a little crooked. So later on, I believe I did fix that. The one side of the nostril looks a little lower than the other, and it's driving me nuts. And I'm adding in some now highlights and some shadows and some of the darker hair. Now, the background of this wood with the clear coat on it is very similar to the color of the dog, so I might end up painting a little bit of a lighter border around the dog, there's my palette now. Look at that. So here's some highlights on the nose to make the nose pop, and the eyes as well. And the collar, the dog's collar was this beautiful, like Caribbean blue. It had some designs on it. When I get to the designs, I don't really go nuts getting it exact because I don't want to take away from the face of the dog. That's the most important part, is getting the dog to look realistic as possible. And laying in those teeth and more of the details. The gums are always really difficult to, because there's so many little flaps and bumps and highlights. So those always, I feel like that takes me the longest to do. So that's the progress. It's like all blown out because the way I position my light, so it looks really weird right now. So I offer pet portrait work on canvas, wood. This is obviously a wood piece. This is about an 8-inch piece of wood. It's a little bit bigger, but I don't really get choice on the size. I try to average it out for my pricing. I have a whole list of pricing for my pet portrait work on canvas wood. I even do them on tumblers or wooden ornaments or even plastic ornaments. I used to do glass, but they break so easy. And, you know, putting all that time into it and it dropping and breaking would just be upsetting. And there she is.